anyways, yesterday we did the Hatfields and the McCoys. So for me, I completely missed the project for a long time, but good thing, we have Netflix. So it's a History Channel original from 2012, and it's Kevin Costner and Bill Paxton. The story is about two families who had a very big feud. It spanned multiple generations, and so what was really cool about this project, so I enjoy a lot of the historical content. So I had just magically came across this, and it was really good. So I decided I wanted to share it. I like to mostly share things that I'm most current on. So this one I just started. So the war is the American Civil War, and it's 1803. Let me make sure. So I want to have those so straight. Let me see if it says it. Anyways, so we'll just keep moving on anyhow. So it's Bill Paxton and it's Kevin Costner. So the latest things that you can see Kevin Costner in is he was Clark Kent's father in Man of Steel. So he also reprised that role in the Dawn of Justice film, which is a continuation of a Man of Steel, but realistically it's the new Batman film, right? So Batman versus Superman, Kevin Costner does reprise his role as Clark Kent's father. So the story goes is in Man of Steel, Clark's father actually dies in that first film. So we do get to see new footage of him in Dawn of Justice, and so it's old footage. It's old new stuff to Clark in the story, right? So as that character is already dead, but this isn't just a continuation of that footage. It's all new footage in that era, right? So we get to see him do that, and that was just recent. So that movie came out just last month. But yeah, so with this one, I very much enjoy war films, and this one was peculiar in the sense that the two of them are on the same side right now, and they eventually are the people the feud becomes about, right? So the families are really close. The families, they live in close proximity of one another, so much so is that they're split by a river. Apparently it's the Kentucky and Arkansas border, and so one family's on one side and one family's on the other. So it's called the Hatfields and the McCoys. So Kevin Costner is on the Hatfield side, and Bill Paxton is on the McCoy side. And these two at this time are friends. So they're older adult men, and in this war, apparently a lot of younger men were drafted, like real young. Some of them are really, really young, and they're really scared and scary to be around and to have them watching their backs. So the two of them, and it pushes the point of that pretty strongly, that there are a lot of youngsters here, and I think some of that is the final straws for this regiment. So this particular regiment is on the front line. So these two are part of what is leading the charge, and they get down into this trench, and this trench is just gnarly. So they're being attacked by all sides, and they're with a bunch of kids. So it looks really grim for them. So somehow they survive. What happens here in the forest is very peculiar in the sense that it's setting up the characters for a very strange relationship. So they're taking the charge, and Kevin Costner's got to take a piss, literally. So he stops to take a piss in the bush, and yeah, when the Yankees try to charge and stab him, and Paxton his head off, and Kevin Costner never did get his until he take a piss. But anyways, they go on joking about how he pissed himself right there, and so yeah, I mean, Paxton saves him right there, like instantly in the first 2 minutes. So within the first minute, I believe. So it's interesting start. So this war does something odd to these men. Well, it doesn't much say how long they've been out here, and it doesn't much matter. So is on these men, and whatever war itself is a big burden on both of them right now. Happens is they skirmish, and they say, it's the extent of my knowledge, Kevin Costner and Bill Paxton get split up there. It's presumed that Kevin is dead. Yeah, so so there's one way, and Costner goes, they get down and split the other way. He ends up struggle on the river with the Met initial skirmish. He ends up in that trench, killing the Paxton, right? So with the other guy, skirmish has done some Costner character, and they presume him to be dead at this point, because when he gets back to there, very happy to see him, and so he allows this to go on, and once they go to sleep, he grabs the horse and goes to leave, and sees them doing this, and he tells them that it's not right, that this is their duty. They're to stay here and to push in to see it. So he plays a very control card. Costner is done, and you can see it in his eyes. He's fed up with this whatever this is that they're doing. He has lost his cause. He's lost his will to pursue this through. He's done. So you can tell, he pulls his pistol out on Paxton, and tells him that he's serious about leaving to let the reins go. And so he pulls a rifle on his back, and watches him walk, watches the horse trot off into the night, and so he doesn't fire, and he puts the weapon away. And the people that Paxton are with are all boys, they might have been better off with him, but he leaves, right? So and they push forward, and so we as the perspective of the audience, we take a turn with Costner's character. We leave the war and we go back to civilization, and he's Kevin Costner's character is overwhelmed by being back home. He is you can tell he's right where he wants to be now. He comes back into the village on foot and sees people working, and you can tell that that this is him. This is his life. This is where he wants to be. This is what he wants to be doing. So they're up there cutting timber on this hillside, and so he's coming into town, and he meets up with one of his kin. So, and you can tell when he ends up here that this is a very small place, like a peasant village almost. So the people that he's looking at, you can tell are kin to him, like they're, not like resemblance or nothing, but the way he looks at them, he looks at them like it's his herd or something. You know what I mean? Like, Anywho, so he meets one of his kin on the road here, walking back into town, and this kin of his is walking two Yankees into town too, right? So once Costner gets there, the kin lets one of the Yankee boys have it, and the other one just gets crazy. They're both very young men, and the kin that has him is an older gentleman with a dog, and yeah, so he takes the one kid out, and then the one kid just goes bazonkers, and Kevin kind of talks him down and tells him to go on and get going up the road and to get out of here, yeah. And soon as he turns and takes like 40 paces or whatever, he takes off, right? And Costner lets him have it. And they're sitting there talking afterward, and he's like, his kin was like, I thought you was gonna let him go, right? And Costner didn't have no quarry with blowing the kid's head off, right? Obviously, he'd have come back rage engulfed and killed Costner on the shitter or something, and there's no way that kid could witness the two of them be accomplice to murder and let the both of them live or whatever, right? So it's like letting it would be like having poisonous snakes and letting them off in your yard, right? So obviously Costner was not going to take that cost from a Yankee as their Confederates, right? As they're fighting for the Confederates, right? So anyhow, so he takes that second kid out, and he lets the kin know is like he didn't really have no choice, right? So after he blew the one's head off, so he wasn't happy about it, but he nipped it in the butt right then, right? So it just goes to tell how this story's gonna be, and we keep getting some very, very tough. We have some very tough choices made quickly by these characters. So, as I was putting it, these two characters, they're from two different families, and they are in such a stature in each of their families that they're the prominent ones in their family. So their relationship was important, and for it to go sour, it has inevitable drawbacks, and that's what the story is mostly about. I mean, is this contempt for each other. As it grows, so does the feuding. And it cascades into more and more characters. So as we get back into town, we instantly get introduced to Uncle Jim, and there was before we got into this town, as we set up, so as he left into the night, we went elsewhere. We go into a bar. There's a Yankee man and a Confederate bar, and the kinman that we see on the road later, he's at this bar. So this Yankee is kin to somebody in this town. How he ended up a Yankee fighting for the Yankee side, I have no idea, and the story doesn't give any light to that. But it does have this conundrum. It does have this conflict. So we grow to find out that this man is Paxton's brother. It's his younger brother, right? So we don't know this at this time. But right now, he's at the bar. So the Yankee man's at the bar. He's having a drink. We don't know it at the beginning, but when he walks out, he hobbles out, right? So I guess he's been injured. So right at this very moment, when he's having a drink, he's just a guy having a drink. And we learn that it's a Confederate bar. from this guy fucking with him at the bar. Tells him to take off his coat. Well, he asks him why he's in here first, and he has this say, and he tells him, it goes further and further downhill quickly in conversation, and so much so that the Yankee man hobbles out and misses a couple of bullets, right? So it's just a squabble, no one else got up, and they told Jim to not be irate, and so the ending comment is that so very peculiar thing that Jim's doing here in this bar is it's not only they're day drinking, so I guess there must not be any work. But today, anyhow, he's at the bar, and he's got this dog. So Jim's at the table, Yank's at the bar, and Jim has a dog underneath the table with him, and him and his friends they're bullshitting or shooting the breeze, and they're going back and forth about the Yank in between themselves, but so he's starting to he pours a shot of whiskey in this dog's ear, and apparently things like that get animals drunk. I don't much know, but I would assume that's what's happening here. So he does this, and this Yank comments on it, and that's why Jim almost shoots his head off going into the bar. Apparently, this dog is a family member, right? So he ought not call it a whore like this. Anywho, this conversation leads to this guy goes back home, and the Yankee, and he gets his shit together, and he gets out of there like he's not kidding. He's got a wife and 2 kids, and he just got home from war, and apparently he knows this guy is dangerous. I mean, he almost blew his head off right there at the bar, so I figured letting him go, there wasn't much to worry about, but and they tell him to let him go, and anyhow, when he goes up there, he kills that guy. This guy's up there getting drunk for a while, like a couple days, weeks, whatever. He's plans on staying there for a month or so, and to try to just hide out and let everything blow over, and within the week there, Jim makes a visit, and ends in this shed just out in the woods, and his kids come to feed him, and check on him and stuff, and he's dead. So so we cut back. Obviously, that goes a little bit later. So once Kevin Costner gets back into town, he goes to his estate. He has a wife and kids, but at this time, when he gets to the estate, sees his wife. She's very awestruck by the sight of him, and her, so much so in the way that he's just pawing at her, and she's just going down the list of things that she thinks that he ought to know, and they end up in the bedroom, and we get on to the next scenes and stuff, and we just get introduced with his family and his family life, and he's so happy to be home, and they're so happy to have him, and he just gets on right back into everything. Apparently, he's a leader in his town, and he's a workforce. He owns most of the land, and he owns all the land, actually, that the timber that they're chopping off. So apparently just as Kim was just taking care of his step while he was gone, and while he's back now, he gets right into the reign of things, and so we just get right into the bullshit right back at home. So he just takes the war's still going on, but this town is generally untouched by the war itself. So I'm not sure how far. So Lexington and stuff like that, the American Civil War, but they're on the Kentucky and the Arkansas border. So I would imagine they're a couple days, week, maybe away from the action of the war and stuff, right? So, and they don't give us the geography, and it doesn't much matter, right? So, in this town, it's unscathed by the war, and you know, like I was just saying, he just fits right back into the fabric and the mold of this world, you know. So he's just out there, and he's the head guy, you know, doing the workload here. And so it's on that same hill, right? So, you know, so saying when he came in town, you know, he looked at that hill like that was his hill, right? And then his kin and stuff being right there and stuff, you know, goes to further reemphasize, you know, this is all their land, and you know, all of, you know, anywho, so we just get right back into the heckle and Jekyll of things, right? So they people in this town, and we don't know if Costner's fraudulent or not. So what happens is this lawyer just approaches him as that you know, the land that he bought, that someone else had sold him, the or his kin that he was representing, the timber rights. 2 years before, he had sold him the land. So Costner was just saying, you know, that he bought this land from a family friend, that if he had sold him some land that was absolutely worthless, then he would have told him, or that he'd have known, or that it would be known. So he calls his bluff right there, and you know, I don't think the guy was expecting it. I think he was just expecting a handout. And so, as far as we know, Kevin Costner's stolen some land from, or he owes a percentage of all of this, or even just the timber, right? So he owes this guy a ton of money, apparently, instantly. So the guy was just saying that they could settle up and stuff, and he had an agreement as to how. But Costner is just saying, let's just, for the time being, he's just saying we take it to court, right? So a couple days later, they turn up at this guy's tombstone at the courthouse, and the guy had been dead 2 years before. This guy says that that he had gotten the timber rights. So you know, he calls the guy's bluff, and then he knows that this guy had just gotten a bunch of land himself. So he had him sign over the timber rights to his land. Elsewise, I guess he'd have killed him, is the innuendo that we got from that. So, anywho, in the meantime, Paxton's made it home already, right? So when he comes home, the welcome is sweet. So, you know, Costner comes home and bangs his wife, and you know, Paxton comes home, and his wife just like, she's like, "Oh, you're back," and yeah, she's like, she said she had given up on him coming back, and you know, she feels as it's obligatory, you know, for her to give herself to him, and yeah, he just breaks down and starts crying and stuff. So apparently he was in a prison camp. So it was like 2 years later, right? So when this lawyer stuff is happening in Costner anyhow, so he's been doing good for a while, and you know, Paxton gets back into town, and yeah, the like I was saying, the welcome isn't so sweet for Paxton. While when the war being over is a really good thing for everyone. Costner catching wind of Paxton being back home, was very reminiscent for him. He just wanted to go and see his buddy again, and you know, um, apparently Paxton feels as though as Costner had done him a slight, apparently, so they fought. What he said is that regiment pressed on, and that he was the only survivor. So all those young boys, I guess, died, and he was captured and imprisoned, and apparently held against his will for a long time. And as you know from even more modern wars, prisoners of war are treated less than garbage, right? So, and you saw what he did, what these Confederates did to those Yanks that they had, so that Jim was walking through the town. He blew his head off and got those bodies off the road like it was nothing. So if this is happening then, and this is these are soldiers and people that are of a government that's being that is spreading. Anywho, let's just say I wouldn't anticipate one of their prisons being very homely or kind. Anywho, it never seems as though as he recovers from this, he brings this home and he's just a broken man. So the way that the wife puts it, so they get on. So a lot, like 5. She tells him she can that he can have her way with her, but just to not spill her seed in her, because she couldn't bear having another one of his children, right? So, anywho, they get on. His family gets on, and they meet in church, and after we're not in there during the ceremony, but we get to see them come out, and he's just saying how good Costner's just saying how good it is to see him, and he didn't know that he was back, and he was really happy to see him, and the he just starts with the bullshit, as if he was just scorned by Costner, like he's hurt by him. He doesn't go too deep into it. He keeps this very superficial form about it, and Costner's just like trying to overlook it and just tell him that he's happy to see him and stuff, and so that conversation doesn't end well, and the wives are over there talking, and the Costner's wife has made some elderberry jam, and wants this woman to take some of the elderberry jam and try it and stuff, and they're just talking about. So Costner's been back for a while, so the woman was just saying, she's the woman that her husband came back home, and her comment is that half of them came back home, right? So, a lot of people say that about war veterans, So he's a broken man. He's brought back a lot of this negativity with him, and a lot of the choices thereafter are just stemmed by all of this contempt for one another, So, they have a bunch of kids between them, and this town, it it has the majority of these, so the town is pretty small, families are pretty so they're having like jubilees, and this jubilee, this gathering, this festival, whatever you want to call it, at this festival, the McCoy's, so the Paxton's family, is there, as well as the Hatfield's family. So the Hatfield's boys has a booth, and the McCoy girl is really pretty, right? So, and the Hatfield boy, you know, he is a very handsome young gentleman, and you know, you can just tell that they're kind of so, you know, other people are eyeballing the girl, but, you know, men can gauge, you know, like the leagues and stuff. So the guy is the lawyer, you know, and he's kind of a jackass, and he looked kind of like one too. He's got a stupid mustache and everything, and like a top hat and everything, and so he's just not like a lumberjack, you know, and he tries to be smart and witty, and it's a gimmick for him. And, you know, while it might be a different personality for the women here, she's into the young stud, right? So she was just saying that he's been with all the girls, and he was just saying that, you know, obviously none like her. So, but anyways, he takes her off and to this site, and they get left out at this carnival past hours, and that's not good for this girl, knowing her from the veteran who's just home and is a broken man. So, man, her brothers go home without her, which is, and he pulls out the belt and whips all of them, and you know, sends them back, and he tells them to not come back without her. And well, he told them the first time to not come back without her, and then they're back, and you know, he sends them back out for her. And so they come back, you know, from this magical place, you know, where he's kissed her now, and you know, of course they're gonna lie about it and stuff, but so they come back, and nobody's there, so he takes her to his house. Man, so Costner is beyond heated, and whips him up pretty good, and you know, the girl's in the house, and you know, it was real funny because the father was just, the boy was just saying, you know, yeah, they'd be delighted to have her over, and you know, they get her over, and you know, his father kicks his ass, and anywho, so she stays the night, which is completely, yeah, I mean, so how they play it is that, you know, she stayed the night with his sisters, and she did sleep on her sister's floor, and you know, he came in and visited, but yeah, and so apparently in the morning he's supposed to take her back to the river and just leave her, and so this shit happens, and he goes to the river, and he goes to bring her to the river, and her brothers are coming. They've all got guns, and man, they let him have it. The older McCoy boy, her oldest brother, lets him have it, and so he catches it. And he catches one, and it goes through, clean through, and he's just explaining himself, and you know, he gets out of being killed, and yeah, so they get her back to the McCoy house, and this man, and they're talking about marrying, and she's just saying that he wants to ask him properly, and you know, she was saying that she spent the night with her sister, and he's just not going for this shit. He tells her to go on, just get out of here, and she's not one of the family no more. And so she goes back across the river to his place, and apparently she's just gonna stay there, right? So anywho, this is like a 3-part miniseries. This first episode is an hour and like 40 minutes, right? So, and apparently we've got 2 more. So anywho, check it out. It's on Netflix.